And this week in Parshas Shemos, Paro, the evil ancient ruler of Egypt, commands that all Jewish males be thrown into the river, and all Jewish females, Techayun, you should let live. This is what Paro, the ancient ruler of Egypt, tells the Egyptian nation to do with all the Jewish boys. Reason being because Moses was going to be a boy, and Paro wanted that Moses should be thrown into the river. Now, what lesson does this passage, this pasuk, this idea have to do with every one of us? So the Lubavitcher Rebbe explains that the idea of Egypt is not something that just happened many years ago. Rather, as the Medrash says, Egypt was a source for all exiles. Our exile that we find ourselves in today, far away from the land of Israel, far away from a time when we have Mashiach, that is because of Egypt. So just as then there was a decree of Paro, so too now there's a decree of Paro. What was the decree of Paro? Let's analyze it. Paro said that the kids, the boys, throw into the river. The girls, let them live. Not just let them live, but give them life. As the Hebrew terminology, techayun. Not v'choya, techayun. You should give them life. And the idea behind that is Paro was saying that the girls, I don't want you to kill them. I want them to be alive. But I want that you, the Egyptians, should give them life. I want that they should live in the culture and in the trends of the society of Egypt. And so too by the boys. What did Paro do? Paro threw the boys into the Nile. The idea of the Nile is the idol worship of the Egyptian nation. That's what the Egyptians served. In addition, it explains in Chassidut that water is the source of all pleasures. So by Paro throwing the boys into the river, it signified the idea of throwing the boys into a lifestyle which is centered around pleasure and which is centered around idol worship. So what's the lesson that this has to do with us? That nowadays we have a Paro too. Nowadays we also have a Paro in our generation. The Paro in our generation is the culture and the trends that shape American society, that shape the world. It's the trends that tell us that because the American dream is so important to us, everything in our life has to center around that. What we truly have to recognize is that the source of our life and the reason why we exist is because we're Jews. We're Jews, that we have a connection to our God. Everything in our life centers around that. So of course, going to college, going to work may be important, but you can't take away the fact why we're doing it. And therefore, when one will come at the expense of the other, it will necessitate that the Judaism will prevail. And that's the idea of the Paro in our generation. And that's how we're able to overcome that Paro in our generation, by remaining strong and faithful to the Judaism within each and every one of us, by not giving in to the trends and the culture. And therefore, I'd like to give a suggestion that as as an actual lesson to take out, L'maisa Pale, in actuality, that we should each, next time we want to eat something, it could be breakfast, lunch, or supper, whatever meal you're going to have. But right before you eat, take a second to sit down and think, who created this food? Where am I getting it from? Why am I eating it? Understand that there's a creator of the world. Understand that the creator of the world is the one that gives us all energy and allows that the food should be able to give us the nutrients we need. And when we recognize that, and we recognize that the creator is the source behind everything else, so then we will ultimately be led to a reality, into a world of Mashiach, which everything will recognize its creator. Everything will recognize where it comes from. May it be very, very speedily. Amen.